The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our software automation webinar series. My name is Sasha Pizzoli. I'm a marketing coordinator at SWK Technologies, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all today. This afternoon, I'll be joined by Johnny Girardi, DataSelf founder and CEO, and today he will be walking you through how dashboards can turbocharge your revenues and increase your sales team efficiency. Just a few housekeeping items, before we get started. All lines will be muted during the presentation. We're going to go ahead and record and distribute the webinar to you in the next few days. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them in the chat box at the bottom of your GoToWebinar sidebar and hit send question to staff. And we'll go ahead and circle back and answer all of those questions at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our presentation.
Sasha, thank you very much. Can you hear me and can you see the mouse moving on the screen?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sasha, thank you very much again, and thank you all for attending. Again, as Sasha said, I'm Johnny Girardi, DataSelf's founder and CEO. I've been working with analytics for mid-sized companies for about 20 years. And in these 20 years, we have helped hundreds of organizations. Several of them, they're very sales driven, and we have helped them take analytics to the next level when it comes to look at your sales trends, your critical key performance indicators, in helping the sales team and the company as a whole to be more efficient. What I prepared to show you today is some of the things we learned and has been helping other organizations. One of the topics I want to start my presentation is talking about 3 critical types of sales metrics. In part of this slide here, a good chunk of the slides is going to come from this book called Cracking the Sales Management Code by Mr. Jordan. And he interviewed hundreds of companies asking, can we manage this metric from a sales standpoint? And by analyzing these 100 organizations, he found out there are 3 critical metrics for sales. The first one is the sales activities. This is something that organizations can manage and can control. It's pretty much, we're talking about number of calls, emails, visits to customers, demos, and things of that nature. So this is one of the metrics that you have full control, or pretty much mostly control. You can help the sales team understand how they can be more efficient, with the calls, emails, and visits, the flow of them. You can see the numbers, you can see how long it's taking on average to call leads. And if you see there's taking too long or too little, you can act individually in different salespeople to help them be on the good range of calls, emails, and visits to be efficient. So sales activities is a big type of metric that you can manage. The next one is called the sales objectives, is how many opportunities you have in the pipeline and where they are in the stage of the pipeline. So these metrics is more for diagnosis and planning. You actually don't control them because you need the client or the prospect to be in the pipeline in a certain stage, but you can influence the process. So sales objectives, another major metric that is part of the puzzle. And the last one is actually measuring the results. So how much revenues you got out of this, out of your sales, how much gross profit, are you meeting your quotas? So this is mostly for reporting, is usually after the fact, and you pretty much don't control much because it depends on the client to sign the contract and give you the money. If you are a highly sales-driven organization and you're trying to get a good hold of what metrics and how to organize to keep a tap of your sales team performance, I highly encourage you to reading this book. It will give you some very interesting insights. Now, what is the critical role of analytics for fast-changing conditions? Today, as you can tell, pretty much all clients and prospects, they are fairly well educated. Usually before they talk with a salesperson, they already have Googled and done a lot of research around your offers. So when they come to you, they're very, very well educated already. And being able to, as a company and as a salesperson, to manage the metrics, is no longer something simple. If you go back 20, 30 years ago, a good salesperson will pretty much know the customers, will know the products that they sell, and we pretty much make it happen. Nowadays there's usually a lot more things involved to be successful. And for some companies, social media is a big component. You have to see what's going on in Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, so the salesperson can be effective. Nowadays, for many companies, the relationship between the salesperson and the customers are very important. Some other companies is more automatic. So there's a lot of metrics that can be critical for salespeople to be more successful. And quite often nowadays, it's not simple to keep track of those metrics because some of those metrics are coming from your actual ERP system. It's actually the actual sales. What are the open sales orders in your database? Some metrics might come from your CRM system. What opportunities are open, what stage they are. Some metrics can come from social media. Some metrics can come from your inventory management tool. So for a salesperson to have a 360-degree view of the metrics so they can do their job very efficiently can be very challenging. I have many clients that, the salespeople who are more data-driven, who are more successful, they have to keep on exporting data from different systems to have this view across different data silos of a client. So things are no longer as simple as they were in the past. So typically, analytics is a platform that can help you address many of those issues. Typically with analytics, you can empower salespeople to have insightful and timely data analysis into different data silos. And one of the big challenges that we have seen is when we bring a new set of tools for people, let's say salespeople, one of the biggest challenges of bringing new tools and new toys, as some say, is the human challenge. Let's say salespeople, they are very salespeople driven. They like to call people, to be on the phone, to meet with people, to solve their problems, to solve their clients' problems. And quite often when you bring, new tools like analytics tools, sometimes that can be a hurdle. Some salespeople think this is a distraction. I don't have time to go look at my reports and dashboards. So part of the way that analytics can really help salespeople to do better with data analysis is for the people involved in the process to roll out analytics to understand your sales team challenges, to understand your individual salespeople challenges, and come up with a way that we can give these people, the successful salespeople, the tools, the way that they want to use. If they want to data in Excel, we'll bring in Excel. If they want to bring on a mobile device, we'll bring on a mobile device. The idea is to bring data easily at their fingertips so they can see the trends across all of the data, ERP data, CRM data, doesn't matter what it is, but address in a personal or team approach. So paying attention to the human challenges of analytics is a big component of what we do as part of being successful. The second thing to be successful empowering these people is also use art in a way. When you're building your reports and dashboards, when you're showing the KPIs to your salespeople, if these reports and dashboards, if they're not clean, simple, if they don't have the information that each salesperson wants in a way that is easy to read the story, many salespeople will not bother and they'll not look at those reports and dashboards. So it also takes some art when you're designing these reports and dashboards in knowing the different preferences of different individuals. And the idea is to be inspirational, to give these people what they want in the way that they want so they can be more successful. And the third component is what most analytic solutions do, is the technology side. This part, you have to have a good BI solution that will allow to give the salespeople what we call the 360-degree view of what they care. So, again, you might have data coming from the ERP, like your sales order, quantity on hand if you're selling products, or availability of your team for services purposes. So all the data is together. You can see your CRM information if you need, is part of your 360-degree view. If you need to see information coming from Facebook, Instagram, social media, it must be all brought together to have this view. So the BI technology should allow you to give every person, every salesperson, VP of sales, that kind of view around what they care. It also must be super easy to use. So if a person, if a salesperson wants to see in Excel, we got to do it in Excel. If they want to see on a web browser, on a mobile device, if they want to receive this information on an email automatically every day as an alert, it should provide you easy ways to get to these people. And it should also allow them to easily slice and dice the data. Quite often when salespeople are working with a client, there's a new question that must be answered, and maybe you don't have in your fingertips a report that is ready to answer the question. And if the salesperson has to call someone else, good luck. Quite often that call might take a while to get an answer, and a decision may not be made on spot, or people may have to wing it. So giving a tool that salespeople can easily slice and dice their data, even change on the fly, is critical. In the last component of the technology, the speed. If the reports, in our experience, if reports and dashboards and KPIs, if they take more than 10 seconds to run, guess what? Most salespeople will not bother waiting. Nowadays, people are very impatient with technology. If they open a page and it takes more than 10 seconds, they give up and they'll wing it, or they'll do something else instead of looking at that information. So being sure that whatever your BI technology is, to deliver reports under 10 seconds is also critical, to have analytics playing a critical role for helping salespeople be more efficient. So this is a little introduction overall of major concepts around critical metrics around sales and how analytics can help. I'm going to switch now and talk specifically about DataSelf and how we help salespeople be more efficient. This is a slide just kind of high level to understand how the technology works. We pull data from we call data sources or data silos, your ERP system, your CRM, Google Analytics, social media, Excel sheet. No matter what the data is, we bring this data into a separate data repository that is called a data warehouse. And this is where we can automate labor-intensive reporting tasks. I know so many companies that have been spending hours and hours and hours every month or every week with some people, and sometimes even some salespeople, exporting data to Excel, calculating things, copying, pasting, testing to see if it's right. They spend a lot of time prepping data for reporting, and they have little time for analyzing. So a data warehouse is a tool that typically can automate the data prepping. Whatever is mechanical that people are doing in export Excel and doing manipulation, manually, the data warehouse can do for you. It can combine data from different ERP systems, from CRM systems, all automatically refreshed. And then we use tools like Tableau, Power BI, and Excel to render the data in an easy format, using desktop, web, and mobile devices. And we've been doing this for over 14 years. And we have learned if you sell something to someone, well, there are a lot of reporting KPIs that are the same no matter how unique your business is. Let's say you want to see probably sales by customer, sales by product or services, sales by salesperson. If you're shipping things in different territories, you want to see sales by ship to or by the customer address. Is it growing or declining since last period? There's so many metrics that are basic that most organizations need that we have developed out of the box reports. Our full library reports has more than 5,000 report dashboards and templates. So once a client starts with DataSelf, on day one, they don't have a few new reports, they have a lot. And we help clients to onboard these reports and dashboards so they can find out of this extensive library which ones would be relevant for them right off the bat, and how also we help them in the long run to focus on other areas that they haven't paid attention to yet to be more successful. So that's how the whole DataSelf stack of solution works as a day one. So let's take a look how DataSelf actually works. Let's see how analytics can motivate salespeople. So let me get out of the PowerPoint and go to DataSelf. Right now, I'm going to be using a web browser to log into DataSelf Analytics. Pretty much everything I'm going to be showing you here on this browser can also be done on mobile devices, using also web browsers for mobile devices. There are also apps, native apps for Android and iOS. So most of the things I'm going to be doing here can also be done using mobile devices. Now, when I sign into DataSelf, let's say when I start my day as the VP of sales or the salesperson, when I sign in, the system will know who you are. It will give you whatever you decide that is your own 360-degree view of your own area that you care. Let's say if I'm a salesperson, part of the sales team, perhaps this 360-degree view is what we call the Salesperson Dashboard. And the idea of this dashboard, when you open it for the first time or when you open during the day, is to have, first of all, on this tab, a high-level view of what you really care. So on the left side, we have major metrics that each salesperson is accountable for. Sales velocity is a popular metric that comes out of CRM transactions. But for some organizations and for some sales teams, these metrics can be quite different. They can be sales, it can be quotas, gross profit, sales order metrics, doesn't matter. The idea is on this salesperson dashboard, you should have major numbers showing how they're doing and overall what the trends are for the past weeks, months, or years. Front and center, you should show typically things that the person should be doing today or this week. So when they start the day, they can take a quick look on what they're supposed to be closing today. This would be an example from open opportunities on the CRM system. And then when they scan through the list, oh, yep, Gilroy, I need to call them first because of whatever the reason is. So it's a quick way to see the day ahead and sometimes take action sooner than later based on what they know that's going on with the clients into the market. Again, this is a CRM kind of detailed report, but if you don't use CRM, it could be something else. Could be orders to ship today. It could be open quotes that you're still negotiating. Could be several different pieces of information that are helpful for the salesperson to kind of plan ahead their day. Top right is an area that I highly encourage sales teams that are commission-driven. Salespeople who are commission-driven, they're usually, if you put in front of them every day a report showing, let's say for the past weeks or months, how their sales is accumulating on a daily basis and how commission is accumulating. If you show that and how much they're doing versus the quota that they should reach, that will keep them seeing the numbers. They'll keep them motivated to hit the goal and make the most commission. So we highly encourage to bring commission calculation inside of DataSelf for that perspective. The bottom area is very popular for sales-driven companies because typically they have recurring customers or they're selling products and services on a recurring basis. And the idea here is to see the hot and getting cold performers. Like, who's hot? What products are hot? Where, what territory is hot? Or who's getting cold? What products are getting cold? And here you just point and click. I'm gonna click who's hot. And when I click who's hot, the tool goes to this other tab. We were in the main tab, now we're in the who's hot tab. And this is, what I'm showing is an out-of-the-box dashboard that's showing two ways that we classify who's hot. The first perspective is the top customers by sales this period. So right now I'm looking at the top 20 customers by sales this period in a descending order. Now, what is this period? Well, right now is looking on a year-to-date basis, but I could quickly change to quarter to date, month to date, or moving windows like the last 30, 60, and 90 days. So I could easily change the period. Maybe I only want to see the top 15. I just change the top 15, Or maybe I want to see that, the 50, whatever it is, the number it is, when you put here, you can see all that information right in front of your eyes. Some companies, when they look at reports like this, they want to slice by product line, by territory, by whatever it is. This is an example of a slicer that we could choose here. I want to see the top salespeople by a certain product line or a certain territory. You just pick and choose, and then the report would show right there. Now, some companies also, they don't care about sales per se, because they make money out of, units sold, or maybe out of, the gross profit. And here you just pick and choose a different measure, let's say gross profit. And right now my report would be showing the top customers by gross profit instead. So kind of easy to change and let salespeople decide what's important for each one of them. Now, I just talked about the top sales this period. This report here, pretty much every company that cares about customers is already kind of keeping track of. But the right side has a different perspective. It shows who's growing the most since the last period. So right now we're looking at sales last year to date versus this year to date, and who's growing the most. Maybe these customers are not big yet to be a top customer, but because they're growing the most, we call them who's hot. So this is a report that is fairly frequently is helpful for many sales-driven organizations. And we have who's hot, we have what's hot. So it's the same perspective now looking from a product standpoint. So products with the biggest sales, products with the biggest sales growth in all the parameters that you can change. Or maybe you want to see where is hot. So what countries, what states, what cities, what territories, whatever that you care from a territory standpoint, you want to see which areas are growing the most. So in this out-of-the-box report, bigger bubbles show bigger growth since last period, and the colors show the slice of this period versus the prior period. And again, you can change the metrics and you can see the information on a tabular format. Now, this is focusing on the hot performers. Now, what we have found that sometimes is even more critical than the hot performers, because overall the hot performers, guess what? Salespeople are calling them. They're calling back. Business is happening and it's growing and it's just happening. So it's great. And sometimes some of the inspiration you can get from the hot performers is why other customers or other salespeople or other products or other territories are not growing as much. So sometimes looking at the hot performers is a way to get inspiration to see what else can you do with the not so hot to help them be more successful. So that's part of the story that the who's hot, what's hot, and what is hot can give you. Now we have the opposite side of the growth curve, the getting cold performers. And the idea here is, from a customer standpoint, is who's declining the most in sales since last period, right? So in this case, we're looking last year to date versus this year to date, and who's declining the most. And the question here is, why? Is this really a problem or is it just seasonal? Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes might not be okay. Maybe competition is knocking their door and is stealing your business. Maybe they're not happy with something with your company, and if you don't fix the problem in a timely fashion, they might be good, gone for good. So knowing who these customers are is the first step toward finding the issue and hopefully fixing it. And here, if I put the mouse over each of these customers, it will show in the center area what products or services are driving the biggest decline. So it's a kind of a way to analyze the data right in front of your eyes. On the right side, we have what we call the no sales. So these customers were buying last year to date in this example, but not at all this year to date. Is that a problem? So that's the main question. And if there's a problem, you should be fixing. I have found in my experience that, salespeople, they call, they email the clients and prospects, and people who call back and email back, business usually happens, transactions back and forth, and hopefully business happens. Now, what's going on with the people that are not calling back? They're not emailing back. How long is it going to take the salesperson to realize that there is a problem with this prospect and they need to take a more detailed work? Maybe they have to visit, maybe they have to call 5 times per day, whatever, whatever it takes to see if there's something wrong and we can do anything about it. And that's the idea of the who's cold, what's cold, and where is cold. In all of these dashboards that I'm showing out of the box, they allow people to change them and to see more details. Let's say if I find a few of these customers and I want to see more details, I just select, let's say, these 3 customers, and I click see details. And now I go to another section in this dashboard, the who's called details, that will give me a list of customers, the products they were buying, prior period, this period, the variance in a dollar amount, in a percentage. So easy ways to see that information. And let's say, hey, actually, I want to see exactly what's going on with this sale. I want to see the actual transaction details. I can click on a data point. I can click view data. And when I click view data, actually, I go to a view that I have access to every single detail, all the invoice numbers, the invoice dates, the items shipped, when they were shipped, what the address they were shipped to, everything that is required to have a detailed view of this particular data point is right here. And if you want to download and put in Excel, you click download, it goes to Excel, and now you'll have the whole information in Excel that you can do more manipulation in case you decide to. So easy to see high-level KPIs, easy to slice and dice the data, easy to see trends, and if you need to download the data to another application like Excel to do more manipulation, it's a simple click away. This is the kind of ease of use, this is the kind of art in human focus technology and framework that we provide to empower salespeople to be effective, to see trends quickly, to make decisions and take action. Let me show another example of a dashboard that is fairly popular among many of our clients. I'm going to go now to the customer loyalty dashboard. So this dashboard also available out of the box. It shows customer loyalty. And this dashboard for one of our clients, it was a very inspirational story. When they look at the loyalty by year, they realized that years 2 and 3, the loyalty was having friction. They were losing clients after 2-3 years once the client was engaged. And they were like, what's going on? We're not supposed to have, client friction at that level. We should be actually becoming better clients in the long run. So when they saw the trend that there were customer friction on years 2 and 3, they started to dig through the problems, and they found out that the prior VP of sales years ago figured out that once we have a client in the door, clients would usually grow. So this VP of sales decided to change the commission structure to incentivize salespeople to sell more, to get more commission out of new sales. So if we get more new customers, to get more new customers. So if you get more new customers in the door, what's going to happen is our client base grows, people stick around, our business is going to grow. But right after he started to make these changes, this VP of sales left, and the new one taking over, got the job, didn't know the context, and continue with the idea of making new customer sales even more incentivized. And over the years, what happened was, well, salespeople will start to pay a lot more attention to new customers and less attention to existing customers, and slowly friction started to happen, and they were losing customers. So when they realized this trend, they restructure again the sales commission, they hire more people to take care of their existing customers, and they were able to reverse the trend and get bigger customer traction. But the point was, until someone saw a customer loyalty dashboard like this, they didn't even know that they had a problem. Sometimes what you don't know is more important than what you know. In out of the box, DataSelf has thousands of KPIs of dashboards like this that can inspire you and your team to look at metrics that can be critical, and today you're not even paying attention to. So this is one example of a customer loyalty dashboard. Let me show another example here that sometimes is also insightful. Sometimes for some salespeople, they actually need to see quantity on hand by item and see where the items are. And if you're the VP of sales, sometimes you care, do we have too much inventory on hand in a certain warehouse and we should move to another warehouse? So sometimes, even salespeople or management of salespeople can be influencing product management, inventory management. So here, for instance, I'm looking at this dashboard that is showing my top 10 products by cost on hand. And if I have too much in a given warehouse, it shows as a red bar. And then when I look at here, aha, my West warehouse has too many of these items sitting there. We need to do something about it. I may need to call the warehouse manager to discuss it and to move things around. Now, in real life, sometimes when someone needs to call someone else or email, they might not know the phone number or the email address, and they might have to search it. And when they're searching that information, they get distracted. There's a call that comes in. There's a visit, and sometimes they just don't get the job done because they got busy again. So this tool has different ways to shortcut the time from an aha to take an action. Let's say if I need to contact the warehouse manager, I could click here and click call or email the person. So it would take me 2 seconds to actually be in contact with the person. And if you're doing this from a phone-enabled device, so right now this is the same dashboard that I'm looking on a cell phone. If I click, call warehouse manager, guess what? It calls the person right off the bat. Call warehouse manager, and it calls. So again, from aha to action, shortcut the time so you can focus more on getting the job done and not going through all the preparation and finding and searching. Bring the data that every salesperson needs, the VP of sales needs, so they can make decisions quickly. They can get insights from your data. Doesn't matter where the data comes from. Let them quickly get the aha moment, take an action, make a sale, and move on. That's the idea behind analytics here. I'm just going to show 2 more examples quickly of other out-of-the-box reports that sometimes can be critical. This one is more from the sales order side, looking at fulfillment rates. Sometimes there are trends that you're not actually fulfilling some sales orders. And this kind of dashboard would show you, let's say, by customer, the fulfillment rate, and if you're having low fulfillment rates for some customers and you're not paying attention to that, guess what? They might leave because you're not doing a good job. Typically, this is a problem for inventory management people, but if you want to get this kind of information to salespeople, we have ways to show fulfillment rates by customer, by product, by salespeople, and let salespeople quickly decide if they need to take an action and help sales. Now, the other thing that we have found very, very strongly in our client base is the human problem of salespeople looking at these dashboards to make decisions. Sometimes they just don't go back to the DataSelf portal. They're busy and they don't even know how to log in. They forgot the credentials. So there are ways in this tool that each salesperson or the admin person can actually push these reports and dashboards to the salesperson inbox. Let's say, suppose I'm a salesperson and hey, I want to see the fulfillment rates every day. I can click subscribe. I can go here and tell if I need to add more people to this subscription. So this could be done by an admin person to add all salespeople. And then I can tell if I want to only see this tab or all of the tabs, I want to tell how frequently I want to send this dashboard out. And once I press subscribe, guess what? This dashboard will be refreshed on that schedule and automatically emailed to all the recipients so they don't have to go to the dashboard. The dashboard comes to them on a scheduled basis. We have found that this approach of sending emails to people regularly, it's a great way to get traction, is a great way to inspire them to see trends. Trends is a great way to get them back into the portal where they can do more ad hoc analysis. So that, again, don't wait for them to go to your dashboards, bring your dashboards to them. By the same token, let me show another example. My last out-of-the-box example is, what if I only want to know about a metric if it meets a certain criteria? Here's an example. For this example, we have orders not shipped in the prior day, And for this example, this company has a limit of $10,000. So if a customer order was not shipped and is more than $10,000, then notify the salesperson. Now, suppose I'm a salesperson and I say, no, 10,000 is too much. I actually want to be notified when it's $2,000. And only when that happens, if all my orders were shipped yesterday below $2,000, I don't care, I'm busy. But if I have any customer above $2,000, I want to be notified, not when it's 10,000. Well, guess what? As a salesperson, I can come here, I click the axis, I click an alert, and I say when the total is above $2,000, right here, send me an alert. Otherwise, don't email me. Don't get my inbox flooded with these KPIs. Only send me when I care. So when you create this alert, guess what? Next day that this condition is met, the salesperson will receive an alert like this. Is an email that has exactly the perspective that the person selected. And from here, they can click. This will take them right back to the dashboard again. They can do more analysis. So the idea to bring reports and dashboards to the salesperson inbox automatically, being on a schedule or as an alert, has been a critical component to address human challenges of salespeople actually looking at the reports, because sometimes they don't have time to go there. But if you bring it to them, many of them will look. And again, these alerts can be done for anything: orders not shipped, customers with late orders, items with low quantity on hand, credit limit issues, cash flow issues, whatever it is. People can create these alerts to be only notified when a condition is met. Now, I showed you a handful or so of these out-of-the-box reports and dashboard that will be ready on day one. But what if I want to create something from scratch? What if I'm a salesperson and I don't find the report that I want and I want to customize it? How easy it is to customize from scratch a report or dashboard. I'm going to show you that example now. So we're going to go to the home link. I'm going to go to my data sources. And these are all the data sources available in my sample database. So I have a lot of things, but being a salesperson, I would only have access to my revenues. So let me go to my revenues and create a new workbook. So it'll be like a blank sheet starting from scratch. Only people who go through, typically 2-3 hours of training would be able to be savvy doing this. But the main idea is whoever knows how to drag and drop, they can actually build reports and dashboards from scratch easily. Let me show this example. So what I'm going to go through now in the next 5 minutes is an idea where actually the CEO of one of my clients did in preparation of monthly meetings where they need to see a dashboard with 3 different widgets. One widget was showing sales by customer and product this month. So what's going on this month. Another widget showing sales and website visitors trends over time. They want to analyze how website campaigns were affecting their long-term sales trends. And the third widget in the dashboard was sales by state and how big the deals are. So I'm going to build this dashboard in the next 5 minutes. The first widget is sales by customer by product this month. So what you need is you need to see customer. You go to the customer list, it's right here. You drag and drop to your report. So these are all my customers in my database. I want to see sales. I just drag sales to my report. So right now I'm looking at sales by customer in my whole company history. By the way, who's my top customers? I just sorted in a descending order and I can see historically my top customers. But hey, I want to see sales by month. So let me go find invoice date and drag to my columns. And by default, it will show sales on a yearly basis for my whole company history. I can expand and go to the quarter level. So right now I'm expanding to the quarter level. I can expand again and go to the month level. So now I'm seeing sales by month in my whole company history. And actually, I only want to see sales in April. I don't want to see the whole history. Well, very easy to filter a report. I can drag and drop my invoice to my filters shelf. It becomes a filter on the right side. And now I can say the beginning and the end date very easily. Or I can change my filter to use a popular way, which is the relative date. When you choose relative date, you're always filtering versus today's date. So if I want to see this month, I just choose the month bucket. And right now, this report is going to show sales this month. And if you want to see the previous month, you just pick previous month. There it is. If you want to see the last 2, 3, 4 months, you just pick and choose. You change the numbers. And right in front of your eyes, you get the answer. Well, let me go back to this month. And by the way, you can change to years, quarters, and so forth. This could be also fiscal periods. So, calendar or fiscal. So back to this report showing sales by customer this month. Okay, but I want to see by product as well. Well, if you know how to drag and drop, you can do it. You find product description, let's say, you drag and drop into the report. So right now, by customer, by product, I see my sales. And if you want to see sales by customer, sales by product by customer, you just reverse the order. You put product before customer, and right there you have now by product, by customer, your sales. So it's very, very straightforward for a user who knows how to drag and drop to build this report from scratch. Okay, so that's my first report out of this new dashboard. The next report, I'm going to start from scratch. The next report is sales and website visitors side by side. Now, website visitors come from Google Analytics. It's not part of my ERP system. Well, as I mentioned, we can blend data together. And for this company, we brought Google Analytics data into the data warehouse. We linked invoice date equals to website visitor date. And once we linked, that was a technical job done one time. Now every day the system is refreshed. As a business person, I just have to drag and drop. So I'm going to double click sales. I'm going to double click invoice date. So right now I'm seeing sales on a yearly basis. I actually want to see this on a monthly basis. I'm going to choose the month bucket instead. So right now I'm seeing sales on a monthly basis, my whole company history. And I want to see website visits. It's right here as part of my connector for revenues. And I just drag and drop my website visit into the report. So these are website visitors, these are sales. I can put them on a dual axis approach, and voila. Look at that. I can see, let me just make this bars a little thinner. The sales are the blue bars, and the website visitors is the orange line. And I can see how my website campaigns, when I have a big spike in my website visitors, usually takes about 2 months for the sales to actually spike up. This actually I'm mocking up what really this client went through. So kind of very insightful and very easy for a business person to just slice and dice their data as needed. The last part of my dashboard is geography analysis. So here I can take any address like ship to state. I'm going to pick also invoice size and my sales. So I just pick those 3 fields and I tell the tool, show me this on a map. In a map it is. So right there I can see bigger bubbles are bigger sales, and they're sliced by colors, which is the aggregation of small, medium, and large sales. And that's it. I mean, I just built those 3 different kind of widgets, and now I want to build a dashboard that combine them together. So now I'm going to go create a new dashboard, and I make the size of this dashboard automatically sized. And I want to see my map. I want to see my trend analysis at the bottom, and I want to see my detailed report on the top left. It's just dragging and drop. As I said, if you know how to drag and drop, you can do it. You can have your people building dashboards like this from scratch just by knowing how to drag and drop. And once you have this, you just come here, file, and save as, and that's it. Now, the out-of-the-box solution from DataSelf that has 5,000 reports. Once I click save, I would have 5,001. I have a new one. And when you're looking at these reports and dashboards, maybe I'm looking at a mobile device and I want to see how I'm doing on the West Coast. I can select using my finger. And when you do that selection, it changes the whole dashboard to filter to only see data around those states. So very dynamic, very easy, and very fast. And that's, again, one of the ideas that we empower. It has to be easy to use. It has to allow salespeople to quickly find the answers by themselves, and it must run in seconds, no matter how much data you have. And this sample database that I'm showing you, it has more than 30 million records. But every turn that I took here, every drag and drop, it took seconds to run because DataSelf is optimized to run queries in seconds, no matter how much data you have. All right, that was my product presentation. Let me switch back to my slide to wrap it up. So just to clarify, typically when clients decide to engage with DataSelf, typically in a matter of days, sometimes only 1 day, maybe sometimes 2 or 3 days, we deploy out of the box thousands of key performance indicators. So we say DataSelf Analytics provides more than 5,000 KPIs on day 1. It's that simple. It is a starting point, most likely we need some customization, most likely. But out of the box, you have a lot of reports like the ones that I just showed you as a starting point to get your decision makers, to get your salespeople, to have insights from your data, make better decisions, take an action, and improve sales. With that, I wrap up my presentation and open a QA session.
Thank you, Johnny. That was awesome. So before we begin the question and answer section of the presentation, if you have any additional questions after the Q&A, please email your customer account manager or camteam@swktech.com if you don't know specifically who your customer account manager is. So now let me take a look and see what questions came in during the presentation. And it looks like we have one question queued up. Okay, so how does the DataSelf onboarding process work?
Good question. So the onboarding process has different approaches depending on the client unique requirements, but overall, the way we do it is phase 1, we highly encourage to do the out-of-the-box deployment. So phase 1, usually in a day or so, we deploy 1,000 reports ready to be analyzed. And then typically we encourage to have some of the decision makers, some of the salespeople that will be willing to look at their data the way it is to check what DataSelf out of the box provides. And quite often when that happens, the idea is we're not guaranteeing yet necessarily that the data is 100% accurate. We don't guarantee necessarily on day 1 that everything is perfect on day 1. What we're telling is on day 1, we have a lot of value to empower decision makers. So we try to bring some of the decision makers on day 1 to see the reports. What happens more often than not when they look at the reports in DataSelf is that, yes, some data is not ready. Some data, very typically, for instance, geography analysis is an area that quite often is not ready on day 1 because many organizations, they don't capture, let's say, addresses correctly. If you put USA, US, U.S, United States, each of these different names is a different country for the computer. So if you try to analyze your territory analysis on day 1 and you have the data, geographical data messed up, someone will have to clean it. Yes, it's true. Quite often on day 1, people realize some of their data needs to be properly cleaned up and fixed. But if you're running a business successfully, on day 1, I guarantee you that there's a lot of data that is good. And there's a lot of the KPIs dashboards in DataSelf that are ready to show critical metrics. Sometimes on day 1, when we show decision makers what we have out of the box, sometimes they realize, oh my God, look at this. They find big fishes to fry on day 1 that nobody was aware of. So that's usually a phase 1 approach. Usually takes about a day or a few days to get it covered. Once we get these decision makers engaged with us, telling us what the real priorities are, we go to a phase 2. A phase 2 usually involves some kind of customization. There's usually pieces of the out of the box that need to be tweaked, cleaned, organized to be better. And then we go to this phase 2 that sometimes can take, days, weeks, and months, depending on how complex it is. In this process, we provide training. So the training is like different approaches. One of the training is just to teach, let's say, salespeople how they can access these dashboards in their mobile devices, in their computers, by email, and then being sure that those 360-degree views of the business that they care comes to them, or if they want to go to the dashboard, we'll teach them and how to read. So part of the training is more end user oriented and how to empower users to be successful. In part of the training is more technical, for those people who want to be more independent, do more ad hoc analysis, build things from scratch, we also provide that training. So the onboarding phase usually covers these steps and usually takes, days or weeks to cover, maybe sometimes months. In the long run, we like to go back to customers to see how they're doing. And sometimes, we realize that they're still not taking advantage of the full capabilities of the solution. Sometimes they're not looking at some of the KPIs that are critical. They're super busy, they don't have time. So part of the onboarding process is an ongoing education process where we go back, we look what they're doing, look what they're looking at, and we show things that we have seen in other clients with similar, challenges. What kind of KPIs can help them take to the next level? So that's pretty much the onboarding process we do on an ongoing basis.
Okay, great. Let me look and see, make sure I'm not missing any other questions. All right, and it looks like that is it for questions. Again, we're going to be distributing this recording in the next day or two. And if you have any questions, you'll be able to just reply directly to that email or again, reach out to your CAM. And so that concludes our webinar today. Thank you for attending, and thank you so much, Johnny, for all of this information. This was really great. I hope everyone has a great day and a great rest of your week.
Sasha, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, I have my email and also phone number available in case you should reach out.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.